nonsense about us joining with the Conservatives. We don't join with losers. We don't do deals with losers. They had their chance. They had their chance in 2019, when we so very kindly stood down against their candidates, and all we asked for in return was a miserable little handful of seats that they had never won and would never win. Oh, but they were too grand. They didn't think we, in those days the Brexit Party, had a future. They were above doing any pacts. So you know what they can do with their pacts now. Why would we even think about it when our membership is growing by the second and theirs is shrinking so fast that soon they'll be holding their conferences in a garden shed? So, as the chairman has already said, and as I am sure Nigel will also say, and Richard, absolutely 100% no deals with the Tories. And for another very simple reason we say that. It is because we are going to win. We can actually see it now beginning to happen. We can go from 5 MPs not to forming an opposition, but to forming a government. We can actually do it. And we can do it because we are the only party that is actually offering Britain what all sensible Britons want. The only one. Oh, just listen to their pronouncements. Kemi Badenoch on immigration. She's going to solve the problem by making it more difficult to stay here indefinitely, without actually having to work out that that means, by definition, you're already here. And what we need to do is to control our borders at the borders, not afterwards. So we don't talk about what we're going to do when people are here. We talk about, in the first place, stopping the small boats. So that you don't have to worry about the expense of hotels. You don't have to worry about the expense of benefits. You don't have to worry about apparently supplying classes in circuses. I didn't even know we had any circuses left. We don't have to worry about that if they do not come here illegally in the first place. And then what have they been doing? What has the government been doing? What has the Tory party shortly before this government been doing? The answer is pursuing an awful lot of options, incurring expense, and carrying none of them through. That is what they've been doing. That ain't common sense. And the one thing that reform offers Britain is common sense. It is common sense, is it not, that farmers should farm? I mean, isn't that what farmer means? It means you farm. And that means, in turn, you use your land. And you grow food on your land. And if you grow enough food, we could even become self-sufficient in food, just as we could and should be self-sufficient in energy. That is what common sense means. But Labour wants them to pull up their cabbages, install wind turbines instead, which only work when the wind blows. They want to rewild, which means waste the land, instead of actually using the land for what the farmers obtained it for, which was to make an income from and supply Britain with the very basic thing of food. Common sense. Common sense. We're the only ones who actually have it. And then you have hugely successful academies. But they're not under the direct control of government. So Labour says that won't do. We want to get them all under the control of Whitehall. And that actually means under the control of the civil service. And that is what they want to do. They do not want independence. That is not common sense. And when it comes to the awful crime wave that we have in this country at the moment, to the hugely worrying proliferation of knife crime, what is their solution? It's to do less rather than more stop and search. And yet common sense says if you want to stop people carrying knives, you've got to find out if they are carrying knives. And to find out if they are carrying knives, you actually have to check what's in their pockets. Or maybe I just missed something. Maybe it's not like that at all. Maybe it's that you can actually control the crime wave by not investigating whether a crime is being committed. Come along if you've got CCTV footage, and in a recent case where the shop owner also had the number of the getaway car. And the police wouldn't do anything about it until there was an outcry on social media. Do you know sometimes social media can be useful? Until there was an outcry on social media. And then the pressure actually caused them to go round and ask a few very unhelpful questions. Now compare that to the attitude of zero tolerance with which Rudy Giuliani brought law back to New York after years. So what we stand for is common sense, but we stand for something else. We stand for pride in Britain. Now, we've already heard today about what we did when it came to combating the slave trade. And it is indeed a very, very noble history that we have on that score. But it is also wrong to trash as completely negative the whole history of Western colonization. We took in, and when I say we now, I'm referring to more than just Britain. We took in medicine, modern medicine. We took in education. We took in miles and miles of tarmac. We took in miles and miles of telecommunications. We took in what helped them to build a future, as well as helping us at the time. And nobody's going to dispute that. So we should not be always apologising for our history, because actually Britain has a history that it can be proud of, and that is the history that should be taught in schools. like that sort of inclusivity. But even he recognises gone too far. And it has gone too far. And as I have said at these conferences before, we will have true equality in this country only when black has equal rights with white and white has equal rights with black. When women have equal rights with men and men have equal rights with women. That is when we get true equality. And the deciding factor must always be not whether you are black or white or male or female or gay or straight or old or young. It must always be who is the most meritorious person to do the job. And if we actually had a Britain where merit was the determining factor, we would have a flourishing, successful, and very, very equal Britain. And so, there is one thing I'm sure we all agree on. Who is the most meritorious person to be Prime Minister? That was pathetic. I'm going to ask you again. Who is the most meritorious person to be Prime Minister? That's right. That is absolutely right, and that is what is going to happen. And Reform are going to be in the next government. Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister. Reformers and only Reformers and no other party will form the cabinet. And we will make Britain sensible, great, successful again.
How do you follow that? Someone's got to follow that. Ladies and gentlemen, should we give another huge round of applause for the superb Anne Widdecombe? Conference, as you know, we have our famous 5 MPs in Parliament doing an amazing job holding this awful government to account. So I'm delighted to welcome our next speaker, who is the MP for Boston and Skegness, our Deputy Leader, Mr. Richard Tice MP.
Hello, how is everybody, all right? Excellent, you're on cracking form. And I've got the toughest gig this afternoon. Because as was just mentioned, how do you follow that? Imagine being told as you wake up on a Sunday morning that you're going to be in the middle of a Widdecombe-Farage sandwich. So I've got my work cut out. Goodness me, it's extraordinary. Just over a year ago, ladies and gentlemen, I thought the English language was short of a new word. So I invented one, Starmageddon. People thought I was being a bit dramatic, over the top, it won't be that bad. Well, how's it playing out? I mean, that's the point. You can't believe how bad it is. Do you remember the slogan? They were going to get elected, change. Yeah, the only change is that we've all got poorer. I mean, even things are falling over, that's how bad things are. So, then there was the other word in that election campaign, stability. Do you remember him sort of nasally? What do we think of his voice coach? I mean, I'll tell you what. I've got to just, I mean, seriously, who paid who? I mean, if I'd paid someone to be my voice coach, I think I'd want my money back. So we had stability. Well, is there any stability in our economy, in how we feel? And then the other great lines. Remember, we're going to fix the foundations. Do you think the foundations are fixed? Can you hear me all right? Crackling. Tell you what, the country's crackling. We'll see if I need to use that. So, I mean, things have got dramatically worse. Crackling. Use it. Here we go. Incoming. Incoming. We'll try that. We might get both. There we go. Hooray! You see, the voice coach, that was obviously what did it. We all need a voice coach. On Christmas Eve? Really? Early Christmas, well, there we go. It's a family show. But seriously, folks, how could it have got so bad so quickly? We were told that our Rachel would sort this all out. I'm unclear. Is she Rachel from accounts, or is she Rachel from complaints? She's clearly not Rachel from the economics department. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad that budget was. And what's it done? It's destroyed confidence. It's destroying investment. Retail sales are down. Jobs are down. The markets are anxious and tense. And growth is down. And there's more growth figures out later this week, and I'm afraid they're going to be bad. And when people in the private sector are talking to me, and many of you will be running businesses and working, everyone knows this was the worst budget in living memory. In my view, by the worst chancellor in living memory. But of course, the Prime Minister has got to stick with her, because the moment you get rid of your Chancellor, you know who's next. So we've got to live with this, and it's not going to be easy. What are they good at? Let's just try and be optimistic, shall we? Any ideas? All right. As an MP, I'm going to call that fibbing, okay? Otherwise, the Speaker might get grumpy with me. There you are, you see. They're very good at taxing people. This is where I wanted to go, sir. The only thing they're giving away, the only thing they're good at, is giving away our money. And who are they giving it to? Well, it turns out they're not giving it to things that might grow our own economy. No. Let's give it away to overseas, shall we? So let's spend 10 billion on overseas climate aid. Is that a good use of our money? No. Okay. Well, let's try something else. What about let's give it away to £22 billion on carbon capture technology? Is that a good use of our money? No. Even the Greens, bless their cotton socks. Even they don't agree with that. They don't think that technology works. Where else do they want to send billions of... Oh! I'll come into that in just a second. Our mate Lammy, Mr. Lammy. Well, good old Dave. Apparently, he's just starting negotiations on reparations with the Caribbean. Is that a good use of our money? No. And then we come to our friends Mauritius. Now, I'm a real estate guy. Bought a bit of property in my time. I've sold a bit of property. If you've got a valuable freehold and someone else wants it, the general rule of thumb is they pay you. I mean, I don't think that's rocket science. I've never known a property deal where I've got a valuable freehold and there's a bloke over there and I said, tell you what, my friend, I'm going to pay you to take this valuable freehold off my hands. And I'm going to then pay you every year and I'm going to link it to inflation. So when you heard a figure of 9 billion quid, that's not the number. They then said, oh, it's inflation linked, it might be 18. That's also not the number. It turns out that the number, over 99 years, if you assume inflation at about 3%, it's £50 billion of our money over the next 99 years that we and our children and our grandchildren would be required to pay. This is truly, ladies and gentlemen, it is the worst deal ever in the history of mankind. It's an absolute shocker. And I don't think we should tolerate it. Do you? No. You sure? Yes. We should not tolerate or accept this deal. Another worst part of this deal is, so having given away this land, we're going to rent it back, and then we're going to immediately sublet it to our good friends, the Americans. So you might say, okay, well, all right, we'll pay a bit, but at least we'll ask the Americans to cover it. Have we asked the Americans to cover the cost? No. Not a penny. So we're the muppets in the middle. We've given away this valuable freehold. We're paying all the cash. The Americans are using it. It's so bad that we cannot accept this, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to make a serious statement and commitment. Because the history of this is that back in 1965, when the United Kingdom gave Mauritius its independence, part of that deal was that Mauritius gave up any claims to any form of sovereign rights over the Chagos Islands. And to ensure that deal, we actually did pay them back then, in old money, £3 million. We paid to Mauritius. So that was the deal, folks. It's in the treaty that they would give up any claims for the Chagos Islands. So what we haven't heard from this government is that actually, in making claims now for sovereignty, Mauritius is in breach of contract. We paid them, they said they were going to give up any claims, and now they're claiming it. They're in breach of contract, they're in breach of the treaty. It's not us that's breaching anything, according to the ICJ, it is Mauritius. So we can't accept. Furthermore, when we win the election, we will stop any further payments to Mauritius. Now, we'll see where that goes. But nothing is off the table, folks. Nothing at all to Mauritius. Nothing is off the table. Visas, diplomatic relations, direct flights, everything should be on the table. We will not allow our sovereignty there is some good. It's only 4 years to go until the next general election. But in the interim, we're going to do amazing things when we're allowed to have elections this year. In some places, we're allowed to have them. In others, they've been cancelled. But we're going to do brilliantly in the May elections. And then next May 26, we're going to do incredible things in Wales and Scotland. And we will prove to people that we actually have the skills and the know and the other good news is that we're going to scrap other daft things. I mean, the biggest of which, the waste everywhere is extraordinary. I must just touch on my friends, the bats. Now, some of you may love bats. I'm not a great fan. But to typify the waste of public expenditure, our cash in this country, you have to look at our friends the bats. Now, who would like to spend £1,000 of taxpayers' cash on a bat shed? Anyone? Oh, you're such a stingy lot over here. Come on. Anyone want to spend £1 million over here on a bat shed? No. Okay. Any bids for 10 million? So if I told you that HS2 has spent 100 million of your money on a concrete bat shed, you'll tell me I'm bonkers. I'm afraid, folks, it's true. Worse than that, the boss of HS2 said he would do it again. 100 million of your cash on a bat shed that doesn't help the bats, doesn't protect the bats. It's complete insanity. Absolutely ludicrous. The waste is everywhere, all across the public sector. And typified, of course, by what I now call net stupid zero. When we get into power, we will scrap that. It's the worst policy in this country. Do you want lower bills? Do you want a lower cost of living? The fastest way to achieve that is to scrap net stupid zero. Now, I must tell you, my new best friend, Mr. Miliband, I asked him in the House of Commons this week, I said, when will the bills come down, Ed? Or will you just admit that net stupid zero means they will go up and up and up? And he got a bit grumpy with me. He banged on about taking back control. Well, actually, we'd like to take back control of our finances and keep money in our pocket, not giving it away. So if we scrap net zero, if we cut the ridiculous amount of waste, cut the daft regulations, you heard Zia talk about it earlier, these are the way that we can make us better off. Do you all want to be better off? Yes. Do you think the country wants to be better off? Yes. I do too. We know we can do it. And I think that's the reason we're doing so well. We're going up in the polls. We've got the momentum. We've got the energy. It's extraordinary. It's remarkable. And in simple summary, folks, when we win the next general election, we can make Britain grow again. Do you want to make Britain grow again? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Even more than that, do you want to make Britain great again? Yes. How great? Yes. Very great. Try that again. How great? Very great. Well, in which case, we have to do one very important thing. We have to win the next general election and make Nigel Farage the next Prime Minister of this country. Is that what you want to do? Are you absolutely sure? Well, in which case, would you like to hear from the great man himself? Well, thank you very much for listening. It's been tough in the Widdicombe-Farage sandwich, but ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding. Give a huge, rapturous welcome for the man who must be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Nigel Farage.
very much indeed. What a wonderful warm reception on this Wiltshire afternoon. Now, I've got a very important message to show you. Would you like a quick flash? We have reached 200,000 members! How about that? Now, the live ticker, which has gone down now, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I've become obsessed with the live ticker. You know, I wake up, this one's working still, is it? Let's have a look, shall we? Oh, we're roaring on now, aren't we? Way! Now, the idea behind this was that as we got past 100,000, we realised that the Conservative Party had sent out 131,680 ballot papers in their last leadership election. So we thought, well, we'll put that up, and who knows, maybe we'll go past it. And on Boxing Day morning, we went past that number, only to have the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition accuse us of fraud, saying we were making it up. Well, we weren't, because we got people to come in and check and look at the back end, and it's all absolutely legit. So I was thrilled to go past that number. By the way, I have it on good authority now that the Conservative paid-up membership is now less than 100,000. So, since we launched this, and by the way, in the modern world, to have got here this quickly, isn't it truly extraordinary? Doesn't it show you something is happening in this country? People want real political leadership. They want real change. That's what that tells you. That's what that tells you. But as soon as I come off stage, that message will change. And it will say that the Labour Party... Oh yeah, we're coming for them, don't you worry about that. That message will say, as I leave this stage it'll change, and it will say that the Labour Party have 309,000 members, and when we overtake them, we will be the biggest political party in this country. That's our goal, that's our aim, that's our target. Now, if you read your Sunday newspapers, you'll see there's much talk of me doing deals with the Conservative Party. Many years ago, sir, they were a very, very successful political organisation, but sadly, they betrayed the country with open-door immigration, with increased taxes, with not delivering Brexit, and they are now going to become a party of history, sir, because we are going to replace them. So let me be clear. If you do a deal with somebody, and perhaps I'm old school, because I believe that my word is my bond, all right? But if I shake someone's hand and do a deal, I look into their eyes and I do the deal on the basis that I trust the person that I'm doing a deal with. I made, I think, a very magnanimous gesture as leader of the Brexit Party back in 2019. When I said we would stand down in 320 seats to give Boris a clear run to get in and get Brexit done. And it was the right thing to do at the time. It may not feel like it today, but it was, I think, a moment to put the interests of the country before the interests of myself or the interests of the party. And it was the right thing to do. But with a majority of 80, do you know what? They didn't even say thank you, which shows you what low-grade human beings most of them are. And they betrayed everything about Brexit. Brexit was about taking back control of our borders. Brexit was about reducing the numbers coming into our country. Brexit was about getting rid of excessive legislation that ties up so much of the time and effort and money of the 5.5 million people out there, men and women, that run small businesses. Brexit was about re-establishing confidence in who we were as a country. None of it was delivered, and I will not be doing deals with any individuals or any party that I view to be dishonourable and undeserving of ever being in government again in any capacity. And to go into the 2010 election, the 2015 election, the 2017 election, telling us they'd reduce net migration to tens of thousands a year, to win the majority saying the numbers would reduce, and then to finish up in 1 year alone with net 1 million people coming into Britain, is as big a betrayal of a promise made to the British people as there has ever been in political history, and they must never, ever be forgiven for doing it. Now, but it would appear that the rise of reform is prompting changes in the other parties. Not just Kemi giving a speech the other day about how tough she's going to be on immigration, the very same Kemi who campaigned for foreign students to bring dependents with them. Quite why coming to university means bringing a mum, I've never, ever fully understood. But the Labour Party will be going on the attack tomorrow. They'll be showing us how successful they are at deporting people who've come here illegally. That's their big plan. What they won't tell you is over half of those that are going voluntarily, that many are getting £3,000 to go. Oh, yes. And I want to ask a question of Yvette Cooper, who'll be talking about this tomorrow, so let's do it now. How many of those young men that have crossed the English Channel in small dinghies since you got into government have been deported on those planes? I think we all know the answer, don't we? So we're not going to buy in to any of this at all. And I maintain that a 10 million increase in the population of our country over the course of the last 20 years has devalued the living standards of everybody in this country. Everybody in this country. It's truly incredible. The wave of people that came under Boris Johnson from 2021, of the millions that came, only 20% are working and contributing. The rest are costing us, the taxpayer. It's an outrage, and we're the only party that actually has the courage to stand up and say that anyone that comes here illegally will be deported. Simple as that. Simple as that. And we're the only party that will say that overall migration needs to be, this is the one net zero we approve of. No more population increase through immigration for many years to come until we get some hope of sorting out the mess that we're in. We haven't got enough houses, we can't get GP appointments, our roads are completely overloaded, our infrastructure is crumbling. No population rise through immigration with a reform government is a promise that we make to you. But to understand the kind of government we've got today, we need to look at the fiasco around the Chagos Islands. And this is just the most, and I know Richard spoke about it earlier, but it's really important. A piece of sovereign British territory, 1,300 miles away from Mauritius, that Mauritius have never, ever owned. And Mauritius, with whom we signed a treaty back in 1968. And by the way, even then, we gave them money. But for Keir Starmer and his government to pretend that a ruling of the UN's International Court of Justice, which has no legal authority over this country whatsoever, is somehow the reason to give away these islands. And it's led to David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, or left-wing sixth former, I'm not quite sure which. But it's led to David Lammy saying, don't worry, there's no threat to Gibraltar, there's no threat to the Falkland Islands, because the people of those islands will decide their future. Well, no one's asked the displaced Chagossian community what they want, and it's pretty clear they want to go back and resettle on some of the islands. And we as a British government should allow them to do that. It would be right and proper, and it would actually deal with the injustice that was done to them back in 1968. But of course, it is the island of Diego Garcia that matters. This is the most important military base for America anywhere in the world outside of mainland America. And let's face it, folks, without America, we are defenseless. We need America. And Diego Garcia is one of the single most important things we give in this special relationship. But it turns out that Philip Sands, KC, one of Keir Starmer's closest friends, has been working for the Mauritian government for years, that he even went to the Chagos Islands. This is a British citizen. He went to the Chagos Islands. He boasted about beating, as he saw it, the British government in the International Court of Justice, and he put a Mauritian flag on sovereign British territory. Now, in years gone by, he'd have gone to the Tower of London. But actually, what he's doing and what Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, who says that everything about the British Empire is racist, these people hate our country. They hate our history. They are giving away a vital strategic asset, one that actually, because it's there, stops the spread of communist China in many of those parts of the world. They're endangering world peace. Starmer's friends have made money out of this. It's against our national interest. And frankly, I think what the British government are doing over Chagos is not far short of an act of treachery. And I mean that. Oh, and then there's the money. So it's generally agreed that £9 billion we will pay for somebody to have something that is ours already. All right? And the Chagossian Prime Minister, the Mauritian Prime Minister, boasted last week in his parliament that the money, the payments, would now be inflation-linked. All right. So let's assume that the payment is £90 million a year. The Times this week thought £90 million a year would be the fee. And inflation-linked, some speculated, you might have read this, it would mean 18 billion. Did you read that? Yeah. Okay. It's wrong. If inflation runs at 3% for the next 99 years, and £90 million a year is linked to inflation, the total cost we will pay the Mauritian government for this is £52 billion. £52 billion, which is more than the entire defence budget this year. It is literally, we'll be paying within a few years more than the cost of the winter fuel payment every single year to do something that is against our interests and will damage our relationship with America. And let me say this. If Reform form the next government, anybody here believe that Reform could? Thank you. They're still awake, that's good. If Reform form the next government, we will abrogate the treaty in the same way that Mauritius have done with our 1968 treaty. We will cease all payments, and if we have to, we'll put visa restrictions on Mauritians and end tourist flights to their islands. We will not put up with this, and nor should we. Let's defend the national interest. Let's put Britain first. I'm also very keen that a Reform government, that we re-industrialise Britain. Let's get people back into proper, well-paid working jobs. The madness. I mean, even some of the people you met outside earlier. No, well, some people like green hair, I don't know, but there we are. But even the greenies that you met earlier, everyone knows we'll be using gas and oil up until at least 2050. So rather than importing it, why not produce our own oil and gas and have many, many well-paid jobs? We have closed down most of our chemical plants, most of our manufacturing, all of our aluminium smelting, nearly all of our primary steel production, and we import the goods from India and China in the name of saving the planet, when we produce less than 1% of global CO2, and what we're doing is making no difference at all. It is as if a collective madness has come upon the entire political class. A political class who in most cases have never had a job in their lives, are out of touch. And to think that a British manufacturer now has power costs that are 6 times that of his American counterpart shows you the sheer crass idiocy, moronitude, stupidity. I think moronitude's a new word, by the way, but anyway. You never know. I did get debanking into the Oxford English Dictionary, so you never know. So we're building some very positive plans, and I tell you what, I think that what is happening in America is going to be a great help to us in Reform and our movement. I was just about the only public figure in Britain that stood up and defended McDonald back in 2015 and 2016. And I've never, ever wavered in thinking that even if his brash New Yorker style is not your cup of tea, that actually this man was a good thing, not just for America, but actually for peace in the world. And I can't tell you how honoured I was to be in that room in Mar-a-Lago that night of the 5th of November when he won. I'm proud to call him a friend, and I think the start he's made with good common sense. I mean, who thinks that 6'3" men should compete in swimming events against women? I don't, he doesn't, and nor do you. So amazing the start they've made. And yes, cutting the size of the administrative state. They've been having a go at the US foreign aid budget. But think about our foreign aid budget. We've been giving money to India, Argentina, China, all sorts of countries, all sorts of crazy causes. We must cut the size of the public sector. We must cut the size of the administrative state. And we must understand that actually, if we're going to get ourselves out of trouble, we'll only do it through hard work, making money, getting tax revenue, without which we can't afford to have pensions. We can't afford to have health. And I want to say this to you, and I really mean this. I feel, and one of the reasons I came back out of sort of semi-retirement last year to throw myself back into the front line, and I did it because I thought to myself so hard, what are the things that really, really matter? And it seemed to me that family, community, and country were the things that I cared about, were the things that the silent majority of Brits care about. And these were the things that inspired me to go back into the front line of politics. But you know something? All of those things are seriously threatened. Our country is in very much deeper trouble than many care to admit. We are getting poorer individually. Our national debt is exploding. Societally, you only have to look at the grooming gangs. Abomination, what other word can I use, to realize the trouble that we're in. Conventional policing has disappeared. Crime is accepted. Shoplifting is accepted. This country, unless we do something, will be completely unrecognizable as all of us know it and love it within a decade. We might just be the last throw of the dice. This might well be just one of those moments when it takes something radical to get a grip, to turn this around, to change attitudes. And that's really why I'm back doing this and devoting my life to it. And I'm so honored and thrilled to have great colleagues with me, some of whom you've seen on the platform this afternoon, to have a couple of 100,000 people now paying their membership money, hundreds of thousands of others who've logged online as supporters. But I'm in Wiltshire today for one very specific reason. We have on May the 1st, now you've got elections in Wiltshire, you've not been cancelled. Although 5.5 million people have had their vote taken away, which I think is a complete and absolute total disgrace in what should be a democracy. I really do. But you've got to vote. You've got to vote. And we need to be stronger in Wiltshire. We've got lots of you signed up. By the way, we filled this place out within a couple of days on one email. Didn't even need to advertise, and we could have filled it 2 or 3 times over. So well done you for getting in quickly. But for the People's Army to be a success, for us to succeed on May the 1st on the ground, and this is our first big test, isn't it, since the general election, we've got to show that those opinion polls are real. And by the way, aren't those opinion polls incredible? I mean, absolutely incredible. In the hall outside, as you leave, you will see tables for each of the constituencies in Wiltshire. You'll see a table at the back of the hall which says sign up here. And what I need you to do, if you want to help us and do your bit in whatever way you can in our historic mission, and a mission that I just feel we can't afford to fail at. There's so much at stake. Otherwise, what do we leave to those that come behind us other than a completely broken and betrayed country? I'm not going to put up with that, and I want you to help me in making sure we prevent that. Are you going to help me in preventing that? Good. So I need you, please, go to whatever table is from your area. Let your local branch know who you are. Do what you can. Deliver leaflets. Speak to friends and family. Go round the pubs, as I've been doing now for decades. Although, to be honest, I haven't got quite as much time as I used to have, but never mind. But what I also need, I need more of you to stand up and put yourself forward to be considered to be a candidate in the Wiltshire county elections on May the 1st. You, sir, you're nodding. Are you prepared to stand up and be a candidate? You're standing already. Well done you. Well done you. But I need people. So come on. Are there some of you in this audience who would consider putting your names forward to stand in these elections? Yeah, who said yes? Stand up. Anybody else prepared to put themselves forward to be candidates in these elections? More people standing up over there, and over there, and over there, and over there, and over there. Whoa! This is incredible. This is incredible. This, for those of you watching this, and keep standing, please, for a moment. For those of you watching this on the live stream, where we get huge numbers that watch this live, and they're interested parties, they're press, they're all sorts. For those of you watching this on live stream, if you haven't joined already, get online and join now. And have a look at what these people are doing. Something extraordinary, something remarkable, something historic is happening in British politics. The good, ordinary folk of Wiltshire, today, right before my eyes, are standing up and saying they're going to fight for our country. We need to put Britain first, and we intend to make Britain great again. Thank you very much indeed.